What's the biggest red flag in a woman? What's the biggest red flag in a woman? This question is sparking some heated conversations and surprising insights, but it seems that everyone agrees on one thing. There are certain behaviors that send up those run for the hills signals immediately. From emotional unavailability to constant drama, these red flags resonate deeply with anyone who's been through the dating trenches. Unable to say sorry. This simple trait seems to strike a nerve with many. When someone can't admit they're wrong, you know growth and meaningful connection are out of the window. I read your comment and I was like, this is weird. Why did they take the time to comment that they're unable to say what their red flags are? And then my brain understood. It's wild how one little misunderstanding of the comment can also be a red flag in itself. People jumping to conclusions without context often leads to bigger problems down the line. Being able to apologize isn't just a sign of maturity, it's a sign of respect for the relationship. This one, they were raised as a princess. Don't walk, run. The dreaded princess syndrome is real. When someone is used to being treated like royalty, relationships can feel more like one-sided servitude. It's like you're always expected to please them, while they rarely reciprocate. My ex was the poster child for this. I learned the hard way that if someone's used to being on a pedestal, they'll never see you as an equal. It's clear that when someone feels entitled, the relationship becomes a constant uphill battle. Fairness and respect go both ways, and when that dynamic is off, everything crumbles. Oh, they can say sorry. They're sorry you feel that way. They're sorry you think that. The classic non-apology. It's not about taking accountability. It's about shifting the blame onto you, making you feel like you're overreacting or misinterpreting things. It's not just frustrating, it's damaging. Yeah, I see you met my mom. She's been pulling that move for decades. It's amazing how quickly people can see through this behavior. A real apology acknowledges the hurt and seeks to fix it, not deflect it. What's the biggest red flag you've ever ignored in a relationship? Let's get real. Share your stories below. I bet we can all learn something from each other's experiences. Whether it's drama addiction, unrealistic expectations, or those subtle red flags you missed at first, let's hear it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more relationship talk and juicy discussions like this one. Your story could help someone else spot the signs before it's too late. Especially because if they don't admit they're wrong, there is no chance the behavior is going to change. Growth will never happen. If someone can't admit their mistakes, there's no room for the relationship to evolve. It becomes stagnant, with one person always feeling like they're walking on eggshells. When someone is emotionally stunted, you're essentially dating their ego. There's no progress, only frustration. You hit the nail on the head. Relationships are all about growth. Without that, it's like being stuck in the same argument over and over again. When the problem with every past relationship was always their partner's fault? This is another common red flag, someone who never reflects on their own role in past breakups. When they constantly paint themselves as the victim, you're left wondering if they're capable of taking any responsibility. My ex used to say every guy before me was crazy. Spoiler alert, I ended up on the crazy ex list too. It's a tough pill to swallow when you realize someone is never willing to look in the mirror. Self-awareness is key, and without it, every relationship is doomed to repeat the same patterns. *** drama. Life is complicated enough. Don't need anyone making this harder than it already is over things that don't really matter. ***. Some people just thrive on chaos, and it's exhausting. When minor issues blow up into full-blown dramas, it's hard to maintain peace in the relationship. Find a girl that makes your dick hard, not your life hard. Great advice, honestly. If the relationship feels like constant emotional labor, it's time to reevaluate. *** making demands before ever speaking to you. Don't message if you're under 6, make under 6 figures, have a dick under 6 inches. ***. Standards are fine, but when someone leads with a checklist, it's clear they're valuing superficial traits over actual compatibility. I was on a date with one like it. She asked my height during the date. I'm 5'8", and she told me she only dates 6+ guys, while I could literally see the top of her head. It's laughable how superficial demands can sabotage real connection before it even starts. If someone is fixated on your height, bank account, or anything else trivial, they're not interested in you. They're interested in what you represent. ***. The classic, if you can't take me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. ***. This line has become a giant meme in the dating world, and for good reason. It's often used as an excuse for toxic behavior without any promise of actual self-improvement. Yeah, well, some people's worst is so bad, it's not worth sticking around to find out what their best even looks like. It's true. This phrase often serves as a red flag for deeper issues, and it's better to recognize it before getting too invested. Social media addiction. In a world where social media dominates, it's easy to get caught up in the highlight reel of someone else's life. But when someone is obsessed with how they're perceived online, it can cause strain in real life. Being constantly glued to a screen instead of focusing on the relationship is a warning sign. It's like their self-worth depends on likes and comments. The relationship takes a backseat to their phone. If you're constantly competing with social media for attention, it's time to ask if this is really what you want. Social media addiction. Being glued to social media has become a big red flag for many. It's like they're more invested in their online presence than the actual relationship. When someone cares more about likes and followers than the person in front of them, it's a pretty clear sign of where their priorities lie. It's tough to compete with a phone, especially when it feels like you're in a constant battle for attention. When you ask her what her favorite film is and she says Human Centipede, I think that's a red flag. I don't want to get stabbed. Why are you blinking so much? This one sparks a bit of humor, but carries an underlying truth. Sometimes people's interests, especially extreme ones, can be a window into deeper concerns. What they enjoy might give insight into their mindset. I'd be far more worried about what happens after the stabbing. Hope the guy in front of me didn't have cuttlefish for dinner. Some comments bring a lighthearted touch to an otherwise heavy topic. While Human Centipede might seem extreme, it's a reminder that sometimes what people enjoy can be a bit unnerving. Bitching and gossiping, fake concern about people, baby voice, fake crying, no tears, sucking up to men. I'm a woman, and I've worked with these women. However, some men don't see these as red flags until later. This hits home for many. Fake empathy and manipulative behavior often fly under the radar until it's too late. It's all about control. They use sweetness to disarm you, but there's a deeper agenda at play. Real emotions are key, and when someone puts on an act, it's only a matter of time before the truth surfaces. When she talks about her exes being crazy, yet she seems to be at the center of all the drama. Blaming the ex for everything is a common theme in relationships. If she's constantly painting herself as the victim, it raises the question, what's really going on? Drama doesn't follow her. She is the drama. This kind of behavior usually indicates a deeper pattern of not taking responsibility for one's actions. If someone's always in the middle of the storm, chances are they're the one creating it. Dating when she's still married. A major red flag. If there's no honesty up front, how can there be trust later? If she's willing to cheat once, what's stopping her from doing it again? Starting a relationship based on deceit is bound to end in heartbreak. Honesty should always be the foundation. An unhealthy fixation on Disney. While enjoying Disney is harmless for most, when it becomes an obsession, it can feel like the person is stuck in a perpetual state of immaturity. It's like they never outgrew childhood, and you're left wondering when the real world will kick in. While having fun is important, there's a fine line between nostalgia and refusing to grow up. Sorry, I'm such a Virgo. Blaming everything on astrology is another sign that someone might be avoiding accountability. It's one thing to joke about star signs, but when someone uses them to excuse bad behavior, it's a problem. Yeah, being rude has nothing to do with your zodiac sign. At the end of the day, it's about taking ownership of who you are, not hiding behind the stars. Being in active addiction is a pretty big one. Addiction is a red flag that requires serious consideration. It's a battle that can deeply impact relationships, and if someone is in active addiction, they may not be in the best place to build something healthy. You can't fix them no matter how much you want to. Addiction is hard, and it requires professional help. Trying to maintain a relationship while someone battles addiction can be overwhelming and painful. Is always the victim. 100% of the time. This might be the biggest red flag of all, constantly playing the victim. When someone can never admit fault, always rewrites history, and lashes out over perceived slights, it's a toxic environment. It's like walking on eggshells all the time, never knowing when the next blow-up is going to happen. These traits can lead to emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and a never-ending cycle of blame. It's exhausting and damaging for everyone involved. Scientologist. I once went on a date with this absolute bombshell, a former model from Milan, with the kind of accent that could melt your heart. She was like something out of a classic Italian film, a modern-day Sophia Loren, smooth and sophisticated, with a charm that left me a little dizzy. We're talking perfect date vibes. The conversation was flowing, she was fascinating, and I'm sitting there thinking I've just hit the jackpot. But then, out of nowhere, she casually mentions her involvement with Scientology. My heart sank. It was like someone threw a cold bucket of water on the whole situation. I'm sitting there trying to process how such a perfect human could be involved with something so off-putting. I tried to steer the conversation away, but there was no coming back from that revelation. I noped out of that as quickly as I could. Sometimes, no matter how great things seem on the surface, there's that one red flag you just can't ignore. Post on socials multiple times a day. You ever been on a date where the person across from you is more engaged with their phone than with you? It's the worst feeling. You're trying to have a conversation, maybe build a connection, but all you get in return is someone snapping photos of their food or checking how many likes their last post got. I once went out with someone who spent more time updating her Instagram stories than talking to me. Every moment was curated for her followers, not for us. It was like I wasn't really there with her, just another prop in her online life. It got to the point where I felt like I was competing with her social media for attention, and trust me, that's a battle you never win. By the end of the night, I realized I had spent more time watching her scroll through her feed than actually getting to know her. When you're on a date with someone, it's supposed to be about the two of you, not about how many hearts they can rack up on a post. When she says that you don't need a condom, so picture this. You're with someone new, things are getting heated, and suddenly she says, "You don't need a condom." There's a moment of silence. You're thinking, wait, what? Sure, the mood's intense, but those words hit like a cold breeze in the middle of summer. It's not just a red flag, it's a flashing neon sign screaming, "Danger ahead!" Because it's not just about trust or confidence, it's about responsibility. I had this happen once, and let me tell you, there's nothing sexy about throwing caution to the wind in such a reckless way. She told me, "Trust me, I'm clean." But the only thing I could trust in that moment was my gut, telling me to get out of there fast. It's not just about avoiding unwanted consequences, it's about protecting yourself and your future. Some risks just aren't worth taking. The ones who boast about having guy friends because women are so much drama. I've met a few people who proudly proclaim that they only hang out with guys because women are just too much drama. On the surface, it might sound harmless, maybe even cool. You think, okay, she's low maintenance, not caught up in petty stuff. But then you start to notice that, despite her claims of avoiding drama, she's the epicenter of it. One ex of mine used to tell me how much she hated dealing with women's issues, yet she was always stirring the pot, constantly at the center of some sort of chaos. I'm talking about someone who could turn a quiet evening into a soap opera within minutes. Whether it was gossiping about her guy friends or playing up jealousy to get a reaction, the irony was unbearable. It made me realize that sometimes the people who claim to avoid drama are the ones creating it. They push away female friendships because they thrive on being the queen bee in a group of guys. And eventually, that spotlight turns on you. You go from being the safe, drama-free guy to being another player in her personal reality show. Biggest red flag? When she's obsessed with drama and constantly talks bad about others. It's one thing to vent about a rough day or a tough relationship, but when someone's entire world revolves around talking trash about other people, you start to see the pattern. I once dated someone who seemed sweet at first, but soon enough, I realized that every conversation turned into a gripe session about her friends, family, or coworkers. At first, you think it's just venting, but when it's constant, you realize she thrives on conflict. And here's the kicker. If she's tearing down everyone else when they're not around, what's stopping her from doing the same to you? It's exhausting to be around someone who only brings negativity to the table. You start to feel like you're walking on eggshells, wondering when you're going to be the next target of her criticism. After a while, it became clear that I wasn't dating someone who wanted a healthy relationship. I was just another person for her to complain about when I wasn't around. That's a red flag you don't ignore. If they're obsessed with tearing others down, it's only a matter of time before they do it to you. Addicted to drama and fighting but doesn't realize it. Have you ever met someone who can't seem to go a week without stirring up some sort of conflict, but they genuinely believe they're the victim every single time? It's like they live for the highs and lows of constant tension, and they don't even see it. I dated someone like that for a while, and it was exhausting. Every small disagreement turned into a huge ordeal. She would pick fights over the tiniest things, and then act like I was the one causing all the issues. The worst part was that she didn't even realize she was addicted to the drama. To her, it was just how relationships worked: constant ups and downs, arguments, and makeup sessions. But after a while, you start to see the pattern. It's not normal, and it's not healthy. Life is hard enough without adding unnecessary chaos into the mix. Some people thrive on it, but if you want peace in your life, this is a massive red flag to watch out for. When her self-esteem is low enough to agree to date me? This one's a bit of a self-deprecating joke, but honestly, it hits harder than most people realize. There are times when you start questioning your own worth in a relationship, like, is she really into me, or is it just because she's feeling down about herself? I used to joke about it all the time, but the truth is, I've been in relationships where I couldn't shake the feeling that I was more of a placeholder than someone she genuinely wanted to be with. When someone's self-esteem is low, they might settle for less than they deserve, and as flattering as it might seem in the moment, it doesn't feel good in the long run. You start to wonder if she's with you because she sees your value, or if she's just afraid of being alone. Either way, it's not a good foundation for something real. Attention seeker. We all like a little attention from time to time, but there's a difference between wanting validation and needing it constantly. I dated someone who couldn't go more than a few hours without posting a selfie or fishing for compliments. At first, it seemed harmless. Everyone likes to feel good about themselves, but it quickly became clear that her need for attention was insatiable. No matter how much I tried to reassure her, it was never enough. She needed validation from everyone, not just me, and it started to take a toll on the relationship. It felt like I was competing with her social media followers for her time and attention. And no matter how much I gave, it was never enough to fill the void. When someone's constantly seeking attention from outside sources, it's a sign of something deeper, an insecurity that no amount of reassurance can fix. And trust me, that's a red flag you don't want to ignore. When she jokingly tells you she's crazy, you know how people say there's truth in every joke? Well, when someone jokes about being crazy, you might want to take that as a warning. I used to laugh it off when I heard it, thinking it was just playful self-deprecation. But after a few experiences, I realized there's more to it. I dated someone who would often joke about being crazy, but soon enough, those jokes turned into reality. She had intense mood swings, unpredictable behavior, and would often lash out over the smallest things. At first, I thought it was just part of her quirky personality, but after a while, it became clear that this wasn't something to laugh about. When someone tells you they're crazy, even as a joke, listen. They're giving you a glimpse of what's to come, and if you're not prepared for the emotional roller coaster, it's better to walk away before you get in too deep. Post thirst trap pictures on Instagram on a regular basis. Social media is a part of life, but when someone's constantly posting thirst traps, it's more than just a harmless habit. It's a cry for validation, and it's exhausting to be with someone who needs that kind of attention all the time. I dated someone who couldn't go a week without posting a revealing photo or some flirty caption, and while it might seem innocent on the surface, it says a lot about where their priorities lie. It wasn't just about the pictures, it was about the constant need for external approval, no matter how much. I tried to make her feel good about herself. It was never enough. She needed validation from her followers, and that's a void I could never fill. When you're with someone who's more interested in what strangers think than in building a real connection with you, it's a massive red flag. Trust me, if someone's seeking that much attention online, they're not ready for a real relationship. When drama is their love language, some people just thrive on drama, and it's like they're not happy unless something is going wrong. I dated a woman once who seemed to relish the chaos. Everything turned into a dramatic ordeal: small misunderstandings, minor inconveniences, or even just an innocent comment. It was exhausting to deal with someone whose love language was conflict. It became clear after a while that she was addicted to the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster. It felt like peace and calm made her uncomfortable. Every quiet moment had to be disrupted by some sort of drama, whether it was about us or something in her social circle. When you're with someone who feeds on conflict, it's a sign that things will never be easy, and no amount of compromise or effort will ever be enough to avoid the next blow-up. It's one of those red flags that can't be ignored if you're looking for stability and peace in your life. Not telling you, just expecting you to know, like I ain't a mind reader. This is one of those classic red flags that creeps up on you. You're dating someone and everything's going fine, but then they start expecting you to read their mind. Suddenly, they're upset or annoyed, and when you ask what's wrong, you get hit with, "You should already know." It's maddening. Communication is key in any relationship, and the moment someone starts expecting you to just asterisk no asterisk what's going on without them saying anything, things start to go downhill fast. I once dated someone who'd get upset about the smallest things I wasn't even aware of, because she expected me to read between the lines. No matter how hard I tried, I was always one step behind, never able to meet her invisible expectations. After a while, it felt like I was walking on eggshells, always guessing, always trying to keep her happy without really knowing what she wanted. Being a 6, but thinking she should be with a man who is a 9 or 10. This one hits close to home because I've definitely dated women who had unrealistic expectations. It's not about physical appearance alone, but about the attitude that comes with thinking they deserve someone out of their league while looking down on others. I had an ex who constantly talked about how she only wanted to date men who were tall, incredibly handsome, and super wealthy, yet she never took the time to work on herself. The double standards were glaring. She wouldn't even entertain the idea of dating a guy whose height started with a 5, but the moment someone brought up weight or personal qualities that didn't meet her standards, she was outraged. There's a fine line between having preferences and being downright entitled, and she crossed it every time. It's a huge red flag when someone can't see their own flaws, but expects perfection from everyone else. She's actually a bear. Okay, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I went out with someone who had this wild obsession with bears. She'd wear bear-themed clothes, always had bear-related stuff around her, and even called herself Mama Bear. At first, I thought it was kind of cute, just a quirky interest, right? But it got to the point where I was genuinely concerned she might be, well, a bear in disguise. She'd order fish at every meal, constantly hibernate on weekends, and once she even growled in her sleep. I brushed it off until I found half my stash of smoked salmon missing. I guess we'll never know if she was just really into bears or something more. Either way, it was a red flag I didn't see coming. Poor hygiene. I dated someone once who, let's just say, wasn't the biggest fan of personal hygiene. It's one of those things that slowly creeps up on you. At first you don't notice, but then you realize it's been a few days, and you start to wonder if they've showered. I remember the first time it hit me. She came over, and the moment she walked in, I could smell it. It wasn't just that she had a rough day or something. This was a consistent pattern. You try to be polite, maybe drop subtle hints about hygiene, but it's tough to address without coming off as rude. Eventually, it became unbearable. There's just something unsettling about being around someone who doesn't take care of themselves. Poor hygiene is more than just a surface-level issue. It's a sign of deeper neglect, and it became a major red flag that I couldn't ignore. My ex-wife said, "You made me do it," about secretly calling the police and then slapping me to try and get me to hit her. This is one of those stories that still baffles me. My ex-wife was incredibly manipulative. One night, she was upset about something trivial, and instead of talking it out like normal people, she called the police behind my back. When I found out, I was shocked, but before I could even process it, she slapped me across the face. Her goal? To provoke me into hitting her so she could justify her call. The police arrived, and even though I had done nothing wrong, I still had to leave my house and my kid behind. Looking back, the red flags were always there. She was never wrong, constantly blamed me for things I didn't do, and had full access to my phone and computer while I wasn't allowed to touch hers. Surprise, surprise, she was cheating on me with multiple people the entire time. It took me years to see the signs I ignored, but that one moment made it all crystal clear.